Okay, welcome to this week's episode of Between Two Teachers. I'm Madeline Cronenberg.
And I'm Consuelo Lara.
And we are here again in the sacred ancestral land of the Chochenyo Karkan Ohlone people. And a lot has happened in education locally and nationally this week. One thing that was international that happened this week is it was World Teachers Day. And so across the world, all of the teachers who are right here on the Zoom platform, wherever else in the world they may be, and some of them are teaching internationally, were able to celebrate World Teachers Day. So I have that. I have a really lovely video about it on Trello. So if you want to see a celebration of all the teachers across the world, take a look at that, or Google World Teachers Day, and you'll be able to see it. Nationally, the schools opened. The schools opened and then closed again. Many of them closed again in New York City this week, because what's going to happen is, this is the thing. What's happening is spikes in cases. And so New York is very big. Most of their schools are still open in a hybrid way. But in some communities, the infection rate has gone up, and so they've had to close schools. So they have 26 schools that are closed, and another whole group of schools that are on the verge of being closed if the infection rate continues to rise in their neighborhoods. So the thing about this is, when it's not over, it's just not even close to being over. And that really proved it, because they were down to an infection rate below 1%.
Yes, they were. Gosh. And still.
Right. No, it's not gone. It's not gone. That's the thing. So, so we can learn from the experience in all these other communities, and we can learn from the experience in New York. And I'm sure that's what's happening here, is that we have to take it slow. Just have to take it
very slow.
I know in New Orleans, my son is back, and what they want him to do is teach 1 day a week in school. I mean, it is so complicated and so such a dislocation. But so 1 day a week he would be teaching in school. 4 days a week they would be online. But he wanted to do it the other way, because all of the kids would be back in school. So one day it's like a super spreader event where he has to come in and they're all there. And then the other 4 days he's not there. So he told them he is willing to be home and teach from his house, and just have them set up a TV in his classroom for students to watch him from, if they insist on bringing the students in. Because he just thinks he really believes that in his situation, many of his students live with their grandparents. And he thinks it's very unfair to set the situation up the way it's been set up. But
it made me think about when I was teaching, how many times a parent sent a child to school even though they were ill, because they had to, but still. And so how is this going to be any different than that? Yeah, they tested positive, I'm going to send them to school anyway. So yeah, right. He's got a very real concern. Absolutely.
He does. He really does. And so, and he's in a position, he's drawing the line. He's saying he's not going to go in. He's told them he's going to stay home. And anyway, so he's
interesting.
So he's an example of teachers across the country who are having to navigate these things themselves, right? And in some communities, he's in a community where there is no such thing as a teachers union. They're non-existent. So everybody's on their own.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're in a state where you have teachers unions, that's when the unions come together and look at what the best practice is for all teachers, and you're not left to figure it out one by one. But anyway, that's the national picture. But one of the things that's happened nationally as well, and is testing, where they are testing. In New York, they're testing the teachers. They have a testing program. And in certain counties in California, they have testing programs. But in other counties, they have no testing program. I mean, I have looked on agendas in Contra Costa. I haven't seen an agenda item that says how we're going to put a weekly or daily testing program in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But that exists as a best practice. They're doing it in Los Angeles. But in Los Angeles, the testing program that they've done a sole source contract with has basically a conflict of interest relationship with the superintendent, Mr. Buettner. He used to be on the board of this company that's only existed for 9 weeks or 3 months, for 12 weeks, that's handling all the testing in Los Angeles. So then you get to that.
Doesn't surprise me, really. Not surprised.
But the idea of doing testing is the important,
But at least,
the takeaway here, right?
Yeah.
Takeaway is we should be able to do testing like they're doing in other places, and where they are successful. So there's that. There's testing.
Yes.
And the other things that have come up are the learning hubs. So Marin County has a program for their low-income children and children whose families can't find another solution, or their special ed children, but also other children. If you have reason to believe that your family needs the support, they have learning hubs set up where children are going to go to a center where they essentially is childcare. The teachers are not redeployed. Your teacher is still teaching online, but you are in your school building. And that's where the school district is partnering with the families and working with their families to get to give this kind of support. And I think in Marin, they're not charging in Marin. In San Francisco, they've got 40 sites so far where they're doing this. And so that's Marin. Marin has the learning hubs. They're called learning hubs. In Marin, in San Francisco, they're called community hubs. In Alpine Union, which is a district in San Diego County, they did the exact same thing. They brought their children back into these essentially what were pods, distance learning pods, because they believe that throughout what's happened apparently throughout the state is there's a whole industry that has sprung up to support parents who are desperate for help. And that industry is this pandemic pod industry. And you can go into Facebook and all sorts of other community groups to try to find some way to help your child. And the way that's played itself out is it's worked in some communities, and in other communities there's less opportunity to form them. And so Alpine Union, the district, the folks in Alpine Union took charge of it, and the superintendent did a big statement, and they just used the school district as the place where they hosted the pods and started that. So that's Alpine, and the learning pods are at school. And of course, we talked about before, the other place that's done it that I know of is Glendale, where Glendale Unified has technology pods and done an exact same thing. And it's not, the key here is this is not bringing children back into their regular classroom, but what it's doing is you're coming back, you may be physically, you're going to be in a classroom and you're going to be on a Chromebook, your Chromebook with your teacher. And hopefully all the other children in the classroom will be on with the same teacher, because then whoever is monitoring that classroom, well, it'll be easier because they're all listening to the same teacher instead of everybody being on with a different teacher. Right?
Yeah,
that's
smart. That's
what
smart.
it is. Others are using, in San Mateo County has pods, but they're all pods that you have to pay for. So you have to figure out how much you're going to pay, what the child care payment will be. And there are many, many businesses that are being set up that are using their space to form pods. And basically, it's exactly the same thing, just as they're doing in the El Cerrito Rec Center. Exactly
You mean
the
for
same thing.
do you mean for the employees of that, or just open to
Anybody,
everybody?
it's a business.
Oh, okay.
Anybody who's willing to pay.
Oh, okay.
It's child care, right?
Got it. Yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of models out there. You know, and what I know about our district, like it was mentioned, Bright Futures. I
Yeah.
just feel because of the high rate that we have in some of our communities that they're taking it slow. We're taking it slow. Like you said, we have to go slowly, but having these models of best practices, I mean, you know, this is great. It's great stuff.
It's being done, right? And I think the sooner that we recognize, the thing about this to me right now is this is going to go on for a while. There's going to be, you know, we're looking at these second waves. People who think everything's going to come back in, you know, a short number of weeks, that there doesn't seem to be any proof of that. And so what really needs to happen, I had the opportunity to be a grandma who is a grandma assistant to a first grade teacher in Redwood Shores last week. And I could see how very difficult it is for our parents, for all parents. And if you had two children to do at the same time, if you have, and you're supposed to actually be checking in with work, it's a really unfair thing that we're asking from everybody.
Very stressful to manage.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. And for some people, it's impossible. So there's a percentage of our parents who are now on unemployment because there is no option for them. Right. Yes. And so that means that all of those factors have to be taken into consideration. I think that the districts across the state, I wish Mr. Thurman would take a stronger position on this and lead with what the possibilities are. And I know he's hoping we're all going to go back, but we're all hoping that. And it's just, we don't have any control over that. So we do have control over how we develop these other strategies to adapt to where we are. And I think we really need to do it.
We could.
We really need to do it. All right, so that's our little pod story. I was gonna. You had an opportunity to tell us about the Long Beach Harvard report. You had two meetings this week, didn't you?
Yes, we had two meetings. We had our regular board meeting, and then the very next day we had our retreat. And first of all, I feel like I need to apologize to people who were trying to be there and listen and learn, and the technology was so bad. And it was just heartbreaking to me because I was so excited about, I still was, Carl Cohn, and he, you know, because the Harvard study, all that he's accomplished in Long Beach, and he's, you know, a rock star in education. So I was so pleased that our superintendent was able to get him and for a retreat. And then we had all these horrible, he'd get right to the point in his sentence to give us that kernel of that golden nugget, and then the sound would go off. So it was very frustrating for sure. But we still got to talk about certain things that he was able to accomplish that we struggle with. The third grade literacy issue. I mean, to have overcome that and actually make a difference, you know, and through committees and through retreats, and to look at instructional practice. We don't look at instructional practice, you know, that much. We have the presentations, etc., but to really get together and look at the nuts and bolts of it, what's working, what's not, how do we, you know, the process. And how long did he say it took to overcome that or to really make a difference? Years. It doesn't happen overnight. The problem wasn't created overnight. It's not going to be solved overnight. So the impatience of people is, well, you know, it's just going to have it's going to take longer. And so there was just so many little, nuggets in all of that. And I know that he's got podcasts. He's got a podcast also through EdSource. Yeah, through EdSource.
Yes. I have a link to it on Trello. So if you want to see it, you can listen to it. You can sign up and subscribe.
So I just, so it was great, but then it was disappointing. And then, so what did you think of it, Madeline?
Well, I think what I learned is it's important to phone in. If you have a problem, if you have a technology problem, don't be afraid to say, I'm gonna sign off and I'm just gonna phone in, because
just give it up.
Give it up, because the thing about Wi-Fi is if it's going to be unreliable, it's telling you it's like they think, don't believe it. When it tells you it's going to be unreliable, it's going to be unreliable, and use it as a conference call. And we really can do that. Anyway, that I was thinking that the whole time, because honestly, there was a tremendous amount of the time that was set aside that was lost. And when it was lost, also the gist of the questions and the follow-up, and there was a lot that got lost because of the technology problems.
Yeah.
But I was impressed by him. It inspired me to go and listen to his podcast. He has a lot to say, and if you can actually hear him say it, it's very worthwhile. And I do think the other thing he brought out was that the longevity of service on the board that was so successful. This was a board that had 4 out of the 5 people. He was there for 10 years, and 4 out of the 5 board members that he served with were with him for that entire 10-year time. And they had been there before him, and several of them had served over 20 years. So he believed that was the reason that they could work together as a team and trust each other and trust him.
He said that was one of the big advantages that he had, was that stable board. What a difference. What a difference. I was really curious too about his relationship, that he had a good relationship with the mayor of Long Beach. And
Long Beach, yeah.
Yeah, and I would have liked to learn more about that, because our superintendent has to have a relationship with 5 different mayors, and so that could have been explored a little more as well. So he has a lot to teach us. He has a lot we can learn from him, for sure. So I was just so grateful that he was able to come. So that was the retreat. That was such as it was. As it was. Let's move on to, we're going to talk about the campaign a little bit here. That's going on.
Let's see if I can do a screen share. Let me see how this
campaign
works.
money specifically, because it's an issue. It's an issue. We cannot ignore it. We have to, face it and look at the facts. All right.
Okay. Now, can you see my screen right now?
Yes. Yes, I can.
Excellent. Okay. So this is on Facebook, and this is this was posted by Francisco Ortiz, who is a teacher in West Contra Costa, and is connected to the campaign for school board candidates. And I'll just read what he says here. WCCUSD is targeted for privatization by billionaires and local millionaire real estate developers. Increased stratification, segregation, and the erosion of democracy, while concentrating more wealth, power, and control in the hands of the wealthy elite, is the end game. We cannot allow privatizers to buy our school board. So I'm going to play this for you. Let's see if this works.
Great, great.
Oh, they're having trouble playing this video. No,
that's too bad.
No, let's reload this page. See, this is what technology problems look like, right? There we go.
Well, it looks like it's
There it is.
moving. Oh,
There
put
it
the
is. That's
sound.
done.
The
Oh, it's the
sound.
sound. Yeah, let me put on the. There it is. So I hope that showed.
Yeah.
You got the
Yeah.
picture, right? We'll see what it looks like.
Right.
But it's been an important election, and in Oakland, a lot of money has been put in, as well as here in West Contra Costa, and it's been put in by real estate developers and others who really have a conflict of interest. And this is another thing that's being brought up at the school board, where you're having a conversation around board policies for conflict of interest, right? And they're aimed at one group of people. They're aimed at vendors to the bond program, but there's no reason that you should exclude vendors to the charter school businesses. Right?
Exactly.
The businesses that the boards oversee are charter school businesses. As we know, they are businesses. They applied for PPE money. They are defining themselves as businesses. And they're businesses that are overseen by this board. So they should have the same conflict of interest rules applied to them as are applying to the businesses that are connected to the bond program.
Exactly. And that's got to be in our in the bylaws of the policy of the conflict of interest. Absolutely, because they're part.
Right.
You're taking ADA. You have a school, then that makes you qualified to follow the conflict of interest rules.
Yeah, it applies to you. It should apply to you.
It applies. Absolutely. That was very good. And so. We were able to bring that up, and some people seem offended by it, like, oh, it's like something you're not supposed to talk about, how much money these candidates are getting. I mean, obscene amounts of money, but you're not supposed to talk about it. I guess some people, I think the difference is, for some people, so what? That's okay, so they're generous. And to other people, we see it as power, control, privatizing. We see a bigger picture of it. And all we have to do is look at Oakland, Los Angeles. That's, I
mean, the bottom line, and this is the bottom line with conflict of interest, there is an ulterior motive for your generosity, right? And if you're generous, the Shot Foundation in Chicago operates from a philanthropic background and position. And they do not make money from anything. They give money. They are a philanthropy. That is not true. And I'm sure he got his money. I don't know where the money came from. So I agree. He made the money somewhere. But now he's not doing something with his other hand to make more money. And that's not what's happening here. What's happening here is you have people who are still making money from the district, who are trying to pick the people who will create the policies they make that will make it easier for them to make more money.
Yes.
And
we have proof of that. We have proof of that because we have 2 members on the board who did get a lot of that financing and who do make decisions according to those special interests. They absolutely do. We see it all the time. So it does really happen. It's not like they get on and
you see it also in the Oakland race, right? Where huge amounts of money are being put in, right? And it's all against the candidates who are supported by the teachers, which is what it comes down to. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, so we're going to keep you informed of that for sure. We follow the money. We will follow the money for sure. Okay.
So now it's time for our updates and shout outs.
Yes.
And the big one, the big one is to a young lady from Michelle, a fifth grader from Michelle Obama School, elementary school. Michelle Obama is going to have its opening on October 29th, and she has sent out an invite to Mrs. Obama to show up. It's going to be on Zoom. You can do it, Mrs. Obama. I'm sure you watch Between Two Teachers. Please come. And if you know a way to get to Mrs. Obama, please do so, because it would be such a wonderful thing to have her just say a couple of words in recognition of this elementary school that will bear her name from now into the future. It's such an exciting thing to have the Michelle Obama Elementary School. And anyway, I believe I've posted on Trello the invitation that's been extended to her by this very lovely fifth grader who put it together. And I hope
Awesome.
I'm going to try and figure out a way to send it to, maybe we can send it to Barbara Lee, or we could send it to Mark Desaulnier.
Oh.
There has to be a pathway to Michelle Obama that will get it to her, because that's what I'm concerned about.
Hey, that's a great idea. Those are great strategies. So if we all did that, find some, we all know different people.
You know, the other person is Mr. Thurman. I bet Mr. Thurman could do it.
Let's ask him too. Yes.
I think he might have a connection to Mrs. Obama. Anyway, we hope Mrs. Obama shows up. So that's the big shout out is to the young lady who's asking, and we'll give a big shout out to Mrs. Obama if she shows up, right?
If she shows up, bless her heart. Bless her heart. That little child.
Now you have your shout outs, because this is also
Yes, I have.
National Principals Month.
Principals Month and School Administrators Month, and I think this week is School Administrators Month also. And you know, I have so much praise for a lot of our principals, because I've been in this district for 16 years, and I have to say, there are a lot of principals out there that I taught with at once upon a time. De Leon was a sixth grade teacher. I taught with him. Gabe Chilcott, I taught right next door to him. And Jessica, she was Jessica Price. And then and Summer Sigler. And there's probably others that I've forgotten. But I just want to say, Mr. De Leon, this was at a time when Helms was really struggling, and he was just such a great leader. And when I talk to some of my friends from that period of time, they talk about how, you know, it was a family. That faculty, we felt we cared about each other, and and it's so funny because Mr. De Leon was such a private, quiet person, but he was able to create that feeling for all of us. And it was amazing. It was really a wonderful time. It was a great experience. And I especially like the story about Rocio Reyes. She's now administrator. Well, they both are at Richmond High. And Rocio is assistant principal. I worked with Rocio when she was an aide in the classroom, or a tutor, one of those at Helms, the old Helms. Then she got her teaching credential. Then she got a master's in, I think it was reading, a reading specialist. Then, of course, she got her administrative degree, and she was working. And pretty soon, she was coaching me about instructional strategies as English learners. That was her area of expertise, ELD. She's brilliant. And she was coaching me and others and helped me to be a better teacher in ELD, and we collaborated. I mean, these are exceptional leaders that don't get the credit that they deserve, seriously. And I am so pleased and honored that I could say, I knew you when, I knew you. And what's great is they're still here. They're still here. They love this place. They are committed to our children and our community. They're not going anywhere. So I think it's just wonderful. We are blessed with some great leadership, for sure. And so it's a whole month. Maybe we'll find some other administrators we can give shout outs to as well. So those are my shout outs. Thank you.
Perfect. So now undertake action. And to undertake action, vote. That's the action we all have to just do now, is we have to vote. And I'm just going to do another shout out for Prop 15. There's been a new ad that came out this week that I thought was pointed to something that hadn't been pointed to before, and that is to the average taxpayer in California. One of the things that Prop 15 does is it lowers your taxes. And this is for the person who pays property taxes, right? So it's going to raise the property taxes on these businesses like Chevron and Disneyland. They're the poster child for both of them for the proposition. But here's what happens. When it does that, the big pot that taxes come from gets extended, because now we're counting how much Chevron and Disneyland and all these other businesses are worth. That means we don't have to charge the homeowners as much. That's what it comes down to. There's a technical report that explains what this is, but basically that's what it is. And so the average taxpayer, property taxpayer in California, will have their tax go down $121. And depending on where you live in the Bay Area, it can be up to almost $500 in Santa Clara, because the property values are so much higher, but also because the tax base is going to go up when everybody who's down there, when those big buildings, when Apple starts to pay their share, when all of these big commercial sites have the opportunity to not have a loophole anymore, and they have to start to pay their share. So it's another one. There are so many reasons to vote for Prop 15. This is just one more that's really being focused on as they're closing their case, and the election season has begun. And I know that people have voted already, or you're voting today, or you're voting tomorrow, or you can wait till Election Day to see if something happens between now and Election Day that's going to change your mind. But whatever you do, vote.
Yes, vote.
And that brings us to our chuckle.
Our chuckle for today. Okay, well, this is kind of an interesting one. Okay, so a witness was talking to a cop, describing a suspect who he said had blue pants, a red shirt, brown shoes, and black hair. Then the cop asked, well, what was the suspect's race? The witness says, oh, I don't see color. Okay.
And there you have it. And there you have it. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us. See you next time. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you all. Bye-bye.